Oh God, do I watch this? Do I watch this one? Oh, am I gonna get in trouble? Here we go, chat, lock in.
The West is racist. That's what mainstream leftism has been saying for decades. Why else would there be such great disparities in income, crime rates, etc. between racial groups?
Yep.
In their worldview, all racial groups and cultures are equal. Therefore, all disparities can only be explained by discrimination.
Yep.
And for just as long, the mainstream right has been counter-arguing that culture explains all disparities.
I used to think that too, chat. I used to think that too, but I have to announce that I have unlocked the final gate of noticing.
Their worldview, some racial groups completely randomly adopted cultures that sabotage them.
In all honesty, though, like, you know, jokes aside, it's kind of all of it, all at one time. So it's not completely genetic. It's not completely an issue of food. It's not completely an issue of culture. It's kind of all of it at the same time, to be honest.
For them, culture is the root cause. Any racial group could theoretically adopt a culture that has worked for any other group and improve themselves. And for that reason, all could theoretically assimilate anywhere. Both of these worlds...
It's nature. So if I were to tell you how I felt about it, I would say it's a combination of culture. Yes, I definitely do think culture and like the culture in which you raise the child, obviously, and like the values that you instill upon the child on their raising obviously does have a factor, but I think it's that, genetics, and nature, which is part of genetics. Yeah, and also just general like societal pressure, I think are things like are things. And I think the problem with what we have in America right now is we don't do any of it. Like, we don't safeguard at all genetically. And when I say genetically, I mean in terms of like the nature of the person. I don't mean like specific racial. I'm saying like basically intelligence factor of like people that come over. So it's okay. So let me back up a bit. What I mean is like when we let people into this country and, you know, we immigration, right? People immigrate to the country. We don't even check them for what are they like? What is their intelligence ability? Like, how about criminality? We don't even care, right? Like these people who are like, oh, illegals, don't care. You literally can't check illegals. That's the whole point. You can't check them. And that's what they want, is they want like illegals to just be here. But we don't even check for any of these factors at all with them, right? Like, I'm all for taking in mutants from whatever country. Like, I really don't care. Like, if they're from any country, but like they're mutants and they're like, yeah, you know, I love the values of America and I hate what's going on here. I fucking hate this place. Yeah, I'm totally down to like move to America, and you know, I'm great. I don't have the nature of like wanting to fucking, you know, cheat, steal, and stab people. And I'm willing to, you know, wait in line like properly and like, you know, do it the right way. Okay, fair enough, fine. We can make an argument for that, right? And I think there'll be some disagreements. Like, there'll be some people that say, fuck all immigration. And there'll be some people that say, oh, I like immigration. It's going to be like kind of in the middle, right? The point I'm making is that we don't even do that. So what the fuck are we doing? Because we're not even doing that. Like, that's the circumstance in which I would say, okay, that's a good argument. Okay, fair enough. Like, we let in the mutants, right? But we don't even do that at all. We don't check for anything at all.
Worldviews are nonsensical. Obviously, discrimination isn't the only factor, and culture clearly matters. But just as obvious...
Oh my god, he's actually reasonable. Yeah, I thought he was going to say culture doesn't matter at all. No, it obviously does matter. All of these things combine into like one thing.
People's culture is not random. It's the product of the people who create and sustain it.
That's true, the majority.
A more obvious root cause to consider? That perhaps different groups are innately different and thus have different outcomes. Even
this is actually true. So this is why I said mutants. Like, specifically earlier, I said mutants because obviously, like in a genetic pool, there's going to be outliers. Like, genetics aren't just like copy pasted. Like, unless you're from the Middle East, they're not just copy pasted, right? Like, typically, there's like genetic variance, which like causes like mutations sometimes, and like, you know, mutations, and sometimes you'll have people that are like have a different nature from like within that culture.
Forces. When studying group disparities, why don't we examine the groups themselves? You already know why. Because in our modern society, one of the most sacred dogmas is racial egalitarianism. The
I don't believe that
all
anymore.
Racial groups are fundamental.
I actually don't believe that anymore. I think I did before. Like, I did change my mind on this because I mean, it sounds good. It really does sound good. And you're like, oh, people are the same. It's like, everyone has the same potential. And then I learned more, and I looked into the evidence and changed my mind.
Fundamentally the same, which is precisely why in this video, I'll be ranking and debunking all arguments for racial egalitarianism, and then putting them on a tier list. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing. It helps the channel. A quick disclaimer.
Morning for England in the morning.
This entire debate exists because of the collective disparities between entire groups.
And again, you gotta, the problem I have with this, well, not this in particular, actually, so far I like the video quite a lot. The problem I have is, like, a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, well, that means that everyone from this culture, everyone from this race is bad because they have bad factors, right? And it's like, that's not the only data point that you should be looking at. Now, when you are selecting for, like, letting people, okay, so like a good example is, like, if anything is unvetted, right? So if you come into a situation where you're like, we don't have the resources to vet people, then it makes more sense to use broader brushes, basically, to exclude certain places. A good example is, like, a really, really war-torn place. Like, you generally don't want to let people in there unless you have significant resources to vet individuals. And it's just an issue of resources at that point. But with perfect information, like, if we had perfect information, then it's easier. And the problem is, like, we rarely have perfect information, and the leftists don't even want us to have any information. They're actually anti-information. It's the reason why they don't even want you to be able to look into a person's criminal history to hire them. They're trying to, like, get that abolished because they don't want people to be able to have that information. They're anti-information when it comes to, like, making decisions like this, which makes it harder.
Groups will therefore be dealing with collective group averages. Therefore, the existence of exceptional individuals of any group isn't relevant, as they are precisely that.
Fair enough. That's what I was talking about, is exceptional people within the group. Mutants again.
Exceptions. If you're the kind of person who accuses other groups collectively when it suits you, but then accuse others of racism if they don't treat members of your group as individuals, you can click off.
Yep,
Intelligence is not genetically linked. This obviously false statement is a necessary act of mental gymnastics for the purely socioeconomic factors crowd.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because intelligence is heritable, as shown from twin and adoption studies, it's completely within reason to say that certain groups have selected for it more than others.
Yeah, and this goes into what we talked about the other day about, like, winter, and, like, how certain demographics, like, in the world, like, we're forced to basically have to be more intelligent in order to, like, take care of stuff. Like, obviously, I mean, that is the case. If you have a case where if you're dumb, you die, and only like intelligent people get to survive, then obviously genetic selection would concentrate the intelligence. It just makes sense, right?
If you agree with evolution, then you must concede this. How else would humans have evolved intelligence? Some dog breeds are obviously smarter than other dog breeds.
Yeah.
The Border Collie and Chihuahua are both the same species, yet differ greatly in intellect and trainability. Should we expect that a Chihuahua would do as well as a Border Collie? Is it purely socioeconomic factors and anti-Chihuahua racism that makes them a minority in working dog roles? NPC tier. Humans are genetically 99.9% identical.
Wait, 99.9% identical, but aren't we, like, within 1% of, like, a fucking mushroom? Like, aren't we? I'm pretty sure humans are very close to mushrooms, like, genetically. Hold on, let me look. 98%? Yeah, I think it's around that, honestly. We was shrooms. You're right. You're right. Mufasa, yep. Leaf in particular might be 99% mushroom. Yeah. I'll have that run while we keep watching.
You share half of your genes with a banana.
Oh, there it is.
90% of your DNA sequence is shared with your cat. Quantitative similarities.
Oh, okay, it wasn't that high, but it's still a lot, though.
Does not equal qualitative differences. That 0.1% matters. Did you know that gray wolves are 99.9% identical to domestic dogs? In fact, they only diverge from each other about 20 to 30,000 years.
Oh my god, bro. He really said one is a dangerous animal and the other is a beloved. Bro.
That's crazy. Which is significantly shorter than the divergence between some human groups. But obviously, that doesn't mean it's okay to bring a
The crazy thing is like you can live with people that are like, oh God, you can live with people that have more of a propensity towards violence. You just need more stricter laws. You have to be like incredibly strict, and you have to appeal to their animalistic instincts, which is fear. This is just the truth. And the thing is like we have done the opposite. We have lowered the cost of doing crimes.
Gray wolf to the dog park. If gray wolves on average end up being more aggressive than dogs, solely blaming it on just socioeconomic factors like dog trait disparities seems a little silly. Because remember,
the funny thing is never mind. I'm not going to use that example.
Control, personality traits are all also genetically linked. NPC tier. There's more intragroup variance than intergroup. This claim says that the genetic difference between one randomly selected person in the village and another randomly selected person in the same village is greater than the genetic difference between the average person of one race and the average person of another. Therefore, race is inconsequential. The premise is true, but there's a flaw in this logic. Not all genes are made equal. Most random genetic variance between people doesn't matter, but some specific genes matter so much that practically the entire group adapted to have those genes and are often defined by it. For example, the Duffy negative mutation, which is found in 95 to 100%
the malaria
of
one,
West
right?
and Central Africans, makes them immune to malaria, but 0% of those without African blood have it. Or the Tibetans EPAS1, which allows them to survive in high altitude.
High altitude people.
Reduced by about 40%.
There's like some crazy ones. Like there's like some people in like Southeast Asia that like they can see underwater like clearly. Like their eyes just are like they're made in a way that like they see crystal clear underwater, or they open their eyes underwater. Yeah, there's people like that. Like all sort, like it's fucking like it's so obvious, man. Like and then if you look at like if you look at sports, it's obvious. Certain people are just really good at certain sports, obviously.
Which occurs for them about 90% of the time, but 0% for Africans and Europeans. Or the ABCC11.
Just because it's because their bodies are have an affinity for that sport, basically.
Gene that makes 80 to 95% of East Asians have no sweat odor. But again,
hey, I have that.
Non-existent elsewhere.
I have that.
Becomes even more complex when it comes to traits that are influenced by multiple genes. We haven't fully isolated the genes that are responsible for intelligence or personality, yet we do know both are genetically linked, and I think we can both agree that social cohesion caused by similarities in intellect and character is vastly more important to survival than odorless sweat. Race is a social construct. Nowadays, whenever a leftist says X is a social construct, you should just interpret that as code for I have no counter to this observable aspect of reality. It's not an argument, it's just wordplay. What does social construct even mean anymore? Anything that humans have a socialized concept for? By that logic...
Let me see if this thing's done. I want to know. Oh, it's actually... Hold on. It's actually 50%. That's a lot less than I thought. I thought it'd be like 90 something, but still 50 is a lot for a mushroom.
Everything is a social construct.
Considering we're not even the same, like, not even socialized. We're not even the same like kingdom, right? Of like life
concept, as proven by the fact that I can name them and you know what I'm talking about. The fact that we have a social construct surrounding any aspect of reality does not mean that aspect of reality is made up. In fact, we build social constructs around real things out of necessity. Abyss tier. IQ tests are unreliable. For many decades, race egalitarians have had to deal with the world IQ map.
This seems like
which showed interesting patterns between IQ score and identity. Their only rebuttal has been either that IQ is not meaningfully influenced by genetics, which is demonstrably false, and that IQ has issues. I don't contest the latter, but it's the best we've got. IQ is the best predictor of success that we have, even more so than being born rich. Some then argue that IQ in reality should be used as a predictor of success in Western society, rather than intelligence. Fine then. If IQ is a reliable metric for success in Western society, then naturally those with low IQ will not do well in Western society, and therefore we should not be importing them. Nor should we expect low IQ groups to have similar... That
is like another thing though that I totally agree with, is like, if there are people, like, why do we do this? So if there is a group of people that are only culturally incompatible, like they're not culturally similar, and they're also like not genetically not genetics, not the right word, they're not intellectually beneficial, then like I don't understand the reason. I don't understand the reason for importing them, like a bunch of them. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Like why would we do that? Why would we make our country worse? Like why the fuck would we do that? I don't get that at all. I don't know what the point is of it.
Outcomes to
I guess you know, hold on. No, I mean, I do know the point. I mean, like, you know, it's kind of conspiracy. Maybe I'm right. But it feels like the point is to get more people that are just drones. Like people that they can like trick into, because they would be more susceptible to being psyoped by them. Psyoped by, and see, this is the thing is like commies use like kind of more base instinct to like get you, basically. Like they'll say things like, oh, we're going to give you free shit. And then like people who don't understand like, you know, the second and the third like order effect of that will be like, yeah, I like free shit. And then they'll take it, right? Yeah. So it makes sense.
Even in the absence of discrimination. Since IQ is so artificially advantageous in the West, let those of low IQ thrive in other societies. Why do they insist on coming into our ones where they'll suffer?
That's true too. That's true. Actually, that's a really good point. I didn't really even consider is that if you bring them here, they basically have to commit crimes, or they have to cheat in order to actually survive because they get outcompeted. So they have no choice but to cheat, basically. So that makes sense.
Is because there are no societies where high IQ isn't advantageous. NPC tier. Culture fully explains disparities.
Okay.
This is everyone's favorite cope when they don't agree that the West is discriminating against certain groups, but don't want to give leftists reasons to call them racist. Here's the thing, you're gonna be called racist regardless when you disagree, so you might as well be honest. Why do some groups...
That's true. I'm probably gonna... I'm probably gonna get called racist for this video, honestly. The thing is I don't really judge people on race. I judge them on their capability. I judge people on capability and their nature and their ability to propel us forward, like propel us forward, like as a total species into the future through technology. That's kind of how I judge people. Like, how useful are you to stellar humanism, basically? Is like, and I feel like we should foster having more of that.
Adopt or create certain cultures more readily than others.
Judge individuals as individuals and groups as groups. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're so right.
Both genes and culture obviously have an effect on each other. Genetics influence what culture you're most innately compatible with, and culture works as a form of selection. But which came first, genetics or culture? This isn't a philosophic question. Genes obviously predate culture. Culture is a product of a people, not the cause of it, even if there is a feedback loop. Just because a culture works for one group of people doesn't mean it works for all. Abyss tier. Different groups are different for a reason. They adapted to survive in their own unique circumstances.
See, but like, I guess the point here is like, here's where I would push back slightly, and not that much, actually. I'm not really going to push back that much. All I would say is that, again, there are going to be certain mutants in groups that are more adaptable, and I think that they could potentially be useful. But again, like, if the idea is if we should let people in from a certain country unvetted, then obviously that becomes a calculation of a group base rather than a calculation of an individual. Does that make sense? If we're forced to make the calculation based on the group, then we should make the calculation based on the group. They're not giving us the opportunity to make an individual judgment.
The expectation that you can transplant the people from one part of the world into another, and that they'll integrate and perform at identical levels to anyone else, is a delusion rooted in the routinely debunked blank slate ideology.
I agree.
An ideology perpetuated solely by the fear of being labeled racist. That concludes the tier list.
Yeah, they're gonna call me racist anyway.
Would like to see addressed.
He's totally right. They're gonna call me racist anyway. So why do I even care, right? Why do I even care? They're gonna be like, "Oh, you're a racist." Leave it. I'll be like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." Like,
please share them in the comments below.
And again, like, I mean, I keep bringing this up. Like, I keep bringing this up. My favorite Supreme Court justice is Clarence Thomas, and one of my favorite writers is Thomas Sowell. So, you know, call me racist if you want, but I don't care. I only care about effect, basically. I care about, like, what is the end result of, like, the idea that you have. And when they force us to make group decisions, then That's how it has to be, unfortunately. Leaflit isn't racist. She's based. Well, they'll call me racist. I mean, they will. They'll always do it. But I actually judge people as an individual. I judge people as an individual unless I have no choice. There are a lot of cases where I don't really have a choice, and that's like, so it depends. Okay, so this is really simple, actually, and it makes sense. You judge people based on immediate availability of information as well as risk. Those are both the same thing. So like, I'll give you a good example. Okay. Let's say I'm like, how do I explain this factor of risk? I'm trying to think of it so I can give you a good scenario of what I mean by cost. It's basically the cost. Let's say I'm walking across the street and there's a person who is giving off signals that they're not an unsavory person. Let's go with big hoodie, baggy pants, chains, gang-like attire, hands in pockets, all right? And I'm walking past them, right? The cost of a miscalculation is I'm dead. Do you see what I mean? It's like, it's a very, very high cost for a miscalculation. So because of the high cost of miscalculation, I have to broaden my calculation to include that. So like the threshold of do I risk this is like way too big. Does that make sense? So like I guess let me give like another case. Like what's another case? If I meet the person online and they're in voice chat with me, then the cost is significantly less, right? Because I know that they can't hurt me. So then I can start to then accommodate more for like their other signals, like as in like the way that they talk, the things that they talk about, the things that we have in common. I can further build a profile in my mind of like who this person is and understand them more. And the cost is less because like, what's the worst case scenario? Like, I don't know, they call me something like mean, like online. The cost is very, very low basically, right? So do you understand like what I mean by cost? Leaflit is anti-white. That's what I'm hearing. What? Yeah, you're a fucking idiot.